Since President Biden gave his State of the Union speech where he commented on the vulgarity, my word, not his, of fossil fuel corporations making record profits during a global energy crisis, I have noticed that there are a flurry of mainstream media news stories and articles piggybacking on that corporate malfeasance bandwagon. But of course, what I notice is they're still, even though they're covering that, they're still misleading. And at best, propping up the mentality of the status quo, and at worst, further marching us into being okay with what I would consider corporate tyranny. I'm going to give you an example. I don't know if you read the Washington Post or listen to their podcast, The Seven, but on The Seven this week, they reported on how Disney, and I have the article here, announced it is laying off 7,000 workers. This is what it said: bosses, and it used that word because everyone hates their boss, right? Bosses, it's a very catchy word to choose. Bosses want to cut billions in costs, even though the company reported profits of 23 billion, and that was just in the last 4 months of 2022. So, it's popular to bash on CEOs and Wall Street these days, and even in publications that are owned by a CEO like the Washington Post they get on the bandwagon and do it, and it's very cunning. It's very baffling because they're doing that same thing. They're covering that story with that angle. But underneath that angle in their coverage, they are still marching you toward like trickle down economic theory. Okay, listen, let me tell you what's going on. The Post said one of the reasons that it gave for these job cuts. By the way, they said cut workers at the beginning, and then they continued to refer to them as they're cutting jobs. Actually, they're cutting people off from their livelihood. So let's just clearly talk about how they're cutting people off, not just cutting jobs. Jobs is a thing. People is your neighbor who's going to be struggling now. Anyway, the Post said that Disney Plus, the streaming service, is losing millions of subscribers, which is easy to believe because there's very little new content on there. We've already watched everything. It's easier to just pay $3.99 and rent something once every 4 months on Amazon rather than incur yet another recurring fee that you can't keep track of. I mean, Disney Plus, Hulu, Netflix, PBS Passport. Now I got to get Paramount Plus because Girls 5 Eva is hysterical. That's another one I got to pay for. Anyway, how about we just buy Encanto for ourselves? And then our kids can watch it over and over and over and never talk about Bruno. Anyway, the only reason I keep Disney Plus is because it has the cartoon Bluey. Do you guys know the cartoon Bluey? And I need that beautiful Australian blue heeler dog to babysit my child because childcare in the United States done by humans is far too expensive these days. And the government is not helping us with that. In fact, I did not notice that mentioned in Joe Biden's speech. But anywho, the Washington Post pointed to the fact that Disney is losing millions of subscribers. And that's not exactly true. They did lose a few million of subscribers in January in India. And that is because Disney Plus over there, or whatever the brother sister company there, didn't want to carry some cricket match over there or something. The Post fails to mention that Disney Plus, which is only a part of Disney, that Disney Plus is on track to be financially very well off by the end of the year. That idea that Disney Plus, one of the little pieces of Disney, lost so many subscribers gives us a plausible and excusable reason for why, of course, they have to cut 7,000 people's jobs. It's, they didn't provide context. Go figure. They also gave more talking point fodder to the right-wing news machine who is insisting about Disney. They have a whole rhyming talking point saying if you go woke, you go broke. The article, as written, makes it seem like Disney is going broke because they've gone woke, but the 23 billion in profit in the last 4 months of a year seems like they're doing pretty well to me. They have not gone broke. In fact, if you ask me, they haven't even really gone woke. But anyway, this is how the Post goes on to continue to characterize the story. And this is a quote. This is a quote from them. The bigger picture, that's what they call it. The bigger picture. Disney is the latest high-profile company to slash workers amid global economic uncertainty. That's what they say. Oh no, that is not the big picture, my friends. The big picture here might be written like this. Disney is the latest company to slash workers' jobs in favor of higher profit margins for CEOs and investors, thus contributing and causing global economic uncertainty. The thing that is causing global economic uncertainty is the fact that there are no rules and regulations around corporations being able to slash jobs whenever they want, even though they're making huge, huge parachutes, for their CEOs and their investors, which are almost all BlackRock. We should get connected to BlackRock. We should get into that in another video for sure. I mean, this is just the headline says that there's this amorphous global uncertainty, and that's maybe a good reason why Disney cut these jobs, when in fact it's the opposite. Disney's cutting the jobs and it's contributing to that exact global uncertainty. Let's get real, people. It's the cause. It's not the other way around. The Washington Post is misdirecting people, and they are one of the best papers we've got. So here's my question. It took me 8 minutes to break down this particular news story, or however long, at least a few minutes. We read hundreds of news stories a week. How are we going to fight this cunning? How are we going to fight this fight for the hearts and minds and for getting at the truth? How are we going to do it? I want your ideas. I'm not going to even propose an idea. I'm trying to do it here. But how many of these videos can you watch every day? How many can I actually do? All the news stories in the world? I don't know about that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'm Julianna Forlano. Put your comments at the bottom of this video. I appreciate them. I appreciate them so much. By the way, at the end of that article, the Washington Post tacked on, though the job market remains strong. That's what they said. They're cutting jobs, although the job market remains strong, because maybe they want to report the facts while they misdirect and incite fear and uncertainty. Very clever of them. Thanks again for watching.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner wherever you generally get your podcasts.